1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on episode 67.
67? What's 67 relevant to, Kaiser? Quick.
I have no idea. I think it might be a prime number. But beyond that, I don't know. No,
maybe.
Are you actually thinking about whether you're trying to divide?
I'm trying to think of... Because back when we did the... What was it? 64, and you got the Nintendo 64 reference. Since then, I've been like, we need to get every number. We need to have a reference for this thing.
What
happened in 1967? Let's say.
Yeah, I don't know.
Was a common year starting on Sunday. Wow, that's just already thrilling events. The 6-Day War happened in Israel. Nigeria.
It was called the 7-Day War.
I think that was the series after. Operation Buffalo. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah,
nothing happened in 67.
Fun historical reference: the 7-Day War, or maybe the 6-Day War, depending on if I have that wrong. Israel, like all the neighbors of Israel, didn't like Israel existing, and so they declared war on it. And Israel kicked their ass in 6 days or 7 days or whatever. It was fucking hilarious.
How about this, bam? If your birthday's on March the 8th, congratulations, it's the 67th day of the year. Happy birthday for March the 8th. There you go.
He says on November 6th.
Yes!
Alright.
You've got lots to look forward to in the new year.
Well, there's a lot to look forward to in this episode. We're actually doing another one of these where we're doubling up on a segment because we kind of have an overload of one thing and not enough of the other. So this episode we've got quite a few topics. I've only got 1 or 2, and Blue has 6. So we're going to be doing topics for segment 1. Segment 2 taking a little bit of a break because we watched Phantom of the Opera, the 2004 version, this week. And then...
Chef kiss.
Segment 3, we're coming right back to topics again, so that we can continue on with whatever we left off with in segment 1. So look forward to that. With that being said, Blue, what's the first thing we're going to be talking about?
Okay, so the first topic is going to be a game-related one. Kaiser, I'm going to give you a choice. Do you want one where you will potentially be frustrated by the world of gaming, or would you want like one where you might actually be a little relieved at the world of gaming?
Let's start with frustration.
Frustration it is. Final Fantasy XIV has new rules and guidelines as to the way that players can act in the game.
Whether they get rid of all the yiffing?
Well... I don't think they'll ever truly get rid of all the giving. Up until now, they've kept the rules and guidelines quite fast and loose, so that basically people can't work the system and say like, technically I was not doing this exact thing that you stated in the rules, so you cannot ban me for this. But people were getting very anxious, apparently. There was a lot of anxiety going around about them wanting to know if they were actually upsetting people or breaking the rules of the game.
Why?
And they did not want to get banned. Because some people just are very anxious, I guess. But now the rules and guidelines they said, okay, fine, we'll set out the exact parameters. And they are rather strict. So much so that, like, if you... Say you're in your guild, okay?
Yeah.
And you make an off-color joke about... Hang on, let me get the list of obscene/indecent expressions.
While you're getting that up, like, these are the type of people that, like, if you're on the playground and somebody, I don't know, does something a little bit sketchy, like maybe he shoves Timmy over because Timmy called him a bitch, and then this is the kind of kid that runs to the teacher and immediately, like, tells immediately because they don't want to be caught in the middle of everything. And I hate people like this. I hate adults like this. Like, it's maybe you act like this when you're a kid because you're a little pussy, but when you're an adult, you should have grown out of this. Handle your own problems. You don't need to go run to, like, Big Daddy Square Enix and have them fix everything for you.
So, key points of the discriminatory section of the thing. It is prohibited to make any discriminatory expressions based on race, nationality, thinking, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, state, religion, occupation, or organization.
Blue's character looks like a powder buffalo bitch. Boom, I'm banned.
Powder buffalo bitch.
I mean, picture your character. It's a really good, like, if there was a racist description of your character, that's a really good one.
I mean, I'm rather hairless, so I don't know if buffalo would work. Why buffalo?
Because you're huge.
Wow, you fat-shaming me now.
Yes!
I see.
No, but I hate stuff like this, but go on.
Yeah, I think they go a bit excessive with, like, based on thinking? Define someone's thinking.
Wait, what?
It is prohibited to make any discriminatory expression based on thinking. Do you understand what that means? Because I don't.
No. Like, does this mean that if you think I'm a bitch and I tell you you don't think I'm a bitch, I'm discriminating?
Yeah, I don't know. And likewise for occupation and organization, I think are a bit odd. It's like if you're mocking someone if they're like a janitor or something, but why would you tell someone your occupation anyway while you're playing a game? It's like, you play games to get away from your fucking occupation.
Yeah.
Or maybe people have been pissing on Square Enix employees.
I mean, I work for...
Well, I can't see why, because everyone loves Square Enix at the moment.
Like, my industry is pharmaceuticals, so, like, maybe, does that mean that, like, if somebody comes up to me and says that they think all pharmaceutical companies are corrupt and money-grubbing assholes, I can get them banned?
Maybe if they said to you, like, your business, all you do is, kill puppies and by testing drugs. Chemicals on them. Yeah. But yeah, so that was a bit...
We use rats.
Yes. Also, actions that inflict... So, another bannable thing. Actions that inflict emotional distress by using expressions related to historical events or crimes.
Wait.
So you can't mention history in a way that would offend people. Which, okay...
Bismarck, am I right? And I'm banned.
Yeah, there's a lot of historical... Because every historical event has a full guy essentially in it. So it's kind of hard. You just can't mention history, I guess.
And the entire history of the human race has been like, conflicts between people, and sometimes violent or non-violent. But you can't talk. These are, God.
And I like to say I do not actually blame Square Enix for any of this. I think Square Enix were perfectly happy playing it fast and loose. I think it was the I want to say the audience, but that's not the right word. The player base.
I know.
I've essentially asked for this.
I blame both parties. I blame whatever chunk of the player base decided that they were going to complain about this, and I blame Square Enix for giving into this shit. When Square Enix heard this, their response should have been grow up, and then not another word. That's how companies should react when people come with complaints like this, is to say, grow up and not change anything.
They do also cover a few good points, though, I think, like people stalking you in-game, people, like, going up to a character and, like, grinding on them, or, like, having sexual acts, like, ERPing in... Honestly, I swear to God, the moment they fucking enforce these rules, right, Limsa Minz's, like, teleport point is going to be fucking empty.
I just... I don't know what was going through their head. They're like, hey, our game's doing great because World of Warcraft did some shitty things. Let's do those exact same shitty things.
Oh, what you talking about, like the bowl of fruit kind of thing?
Yeah, like they've just decided, hey, we're gonna go down the exact same route that killed our major competitor. Yeah,
but they did it for a very different reason. Like, World of Warcraft did it because they were slapping themselves on the wrist because of something completely unrelated that they'd done.
Final Fantasy...
Bad.
No. What Square Enix is doing now is what World of Warcraft did like 5 years ago. So...
I have no idea what they did 5 years ago.
Exactly what Square Enix is doing now. They crack down on, like, all the fun shit. and they did these more stringent guidelines.
And they said, like, we're completely fine with this stuff happening in privacy or with consenting people. Like, I'm talking about ERP now.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I still don't even agree that they should have, like, banned stuff like that. I've never understood e-stalking in a video game. Log out! It's a fucking video game!
Okay, imagine you're like a streamer, okay?
Yeah.
And a guy's constantly following around. Because obviously he can see your point of view. It's quite a common thing for people to just get on like a massive fucking mountain, stand in front of your camera.
Yeah.
That's really fucking annoying, especially because you're not just playing for yourself, you're playing for hundreds of thousands of people, potentially.
That's the risk you run. You're playing a video game online. There are assholes online.
Yeah, but they just want to enjoy the game, and they're streamers. They want other people to enjoy them playing the game as well. I can understand why it's fucking annoying.
It's annoying. Frankly, it should not be bannable.
Dickheads,
it's annoying, but it should not be bannable. Like, there's ways to get around that shit.
I don't think it's specifically banning. I think this list covers, like, you know, warnings and all that other shit. I don't know what exactly the process is for Final Fantasy to... I don't know if they just, like, get rid of your character and let you make a new one, or what.
Any amount of punishment is too much for stuff that they're describing.
And this is I feel like this is... I don't think this is a bad thing. I think this is very well... describes our kind of views, political views somewhat, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm a bit more of a police state side than you are, I guess.
And I'm very much
in negative light.
Yeah, I'm very much on the hardcore libertarian side of things.
Yeah. But yeah, that's there you go. That was the frustrating side of gaming.
All right. Well, I'm very much awake now and angry. Let's move on to something else.
Okay, let's switch over to the real world topic that I've got for this week. Halloween last week, and so for those listening or watching, no, not watching. Well, maybe watching. Who knows? We put out our Halloween podcast last week.
Yep.
But that was recorded a week before the actual Halloween, so that it would come out on Halloween, and you could all enjoy it then. I then went out with Alicia the day after, I think it was, to go clubbing on Halloween. So we got dressed up. I was dressed up as a Payday character because I fucking love it, and I've got the masks.
The story is made funnier for me because I can actually see what you're wearing right now.
What do you mean?
Just you talking about going out clubbing on Halloween and you're dressed like some kind of you got the hoodie up, your headphones over the hoodie, the sunglasses on, like...
I have. Well, that's because I've been up for a long time and the sunglasses help my eyes.
Okay, go on with the story.
Anyway, so yes, we went out to a club, and this was the first time Alicia had ever been out clubbing. It was great. She really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. We were out for about 4 hours, which is a bit longer than I would normally go out. But, you know, I wasn't going to be a killjoy on our first foray into the clubbing scene.
Yeah.
We were out, and the place where we were, it was quite a busy location, should we say? There is a well-built-up area. And I think that actively affects the way that a group of people will dance, right? So, I came from a far quieter place before I came to where I am now.
Yeah.
And so, there's generally a bit more room in clubs. All the people in this particular club that we were in the other week were like doing that thing where you're just gently bobbing up and down and basically not moving at all. You're just doing like the soft head banging and like...
Yeah.
It looks awkward as fuck, especially in the early hours of the club when there's not many people. Yeah. And like, it doesn't look like you're enjoying yourself. Your facial expression is just like stoic. You try not to get eye contact with someone. Then there's me and fucking Alicia, front of the fucking room, in the middle. People actually cleared a fucking space for us because we were fucking throwing shapes, man. It was we were really enjoying ourselves.
That's how I dance.
Yes, absolutely.
Actually
And
move
I think
around.
if you're gonna dance, A, you should have fun,
Yeah.
and B, you should work up a bit of a sweat.
You should fucking move. Like when I like the like company parties that I went to, and even like when I go out with people and actually have a chance to dance, like the next day I should be sore. Like,
Yes,
I've
absolutely.
after I've been like somewhere where I've actually done like where I've actually danced. Like, I feel like I've had a good core workout. Like, my abs are fucking sore as hell, and so are my legs. That's how you should feel.
Legs.
I agree with you on this point 100%. Like, don't... The
Like-
fucking little head bob. It's like, okay.
Yeah,
That's fine if you're
right.
at home, like, sitting in your chair, listening to some beats.
Yeah, and that's like you're not thinking about doing it then, you're just doing it out of...
Yeah, exactly. You just
Keep
feel
the
like
beat.
moving along to the music.
Yeah, and when it gets later in the night, when there's a more intense group of people, yeah, I can understand you're not going to be throwing your arms around so much.
Right.
Because out of courtesy, you don't want to knock people's drinks out of their hand, you don't want to hit someone by accident. And these things do happen, and then you just, apologise and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I was wearing the payday mask, right?
Yeah.
And I was in a suit. Very difficult dancing with a mask on. Like, a full fucking mask on. Especially because there is no hole for the mouth. So you're essentially breathing up or down to get the air out of
Oh, yeah.
the
Yeah.
fucking mask. And I was still fucking there for 4 hours. There was a real... a very obvious way for me to work out. Because people would come up and talk to me and be like, I love your mask, or like, hey, that's from Payday, I recognize it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's a very simple way of working out who was going to be a wanker and who was not. The wankers were the ones that didn't come up and they might come up and say, oh, I really like what you're going on. And then they'd try and touch my face. You should never, ever try... You should never just try and touch a person, alright? Especially without their permission. Granted, it's a mask. It's not like it's there touching me. But putting your hand near someone's face, irrelevant of any other thing, it's kind of hostile.
Yeah.
And the number of people that were going up and just like grabbing at my fucking face, I was like, no. And literally, there were several times I swatted someone's hand away. Some guy grabbed the fucking nose of my mask, and I turned to him. He was pretty fucking drunk. I turned to him, fucking grabbed his nose, and gave it a bit of a pull as well. I was like, yeah, it's fucking fun, isn't it?
I like that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Like, I think
There's
people are a
personal
little...
space.
I don't know. I think people are a little too touchy about like personal space in general. Like, I can see like if you're being like if touch someone on the shoulder, on the arm, something like that. That's generally, in my opinion, okay if it's like if the situation calls for it. It can be awkward if it doesn't, but never, even people I know, I don't like randomly touch their face.
Yeah, I would never just fucking reach up and like poke you in the face, and if there was a reason for me to do so, I would ask first. And that's even though I know you really quite well now.
Yeah,
I would still do that. Drunk or not, just don't be that guy.
I can't
it was
think
a really
of a single
fucking good
reason.
night.
Like, I can't think of a single reason to touch somebody's face, even that I know, unless I'm gonna hit them. Like,
Or caress them.
yeah, that's the thing. That's the weird thing. It's like it's kind of an intimate action. It's like, oh, hello, dear.
Yeah, faces are kind of there's boundaries there.
That is very
One of
weird
them-
to me. All I'm
I know
thinking is
spell-
because you were at a club, like maybe they were having some ecstasy.
Oh, they're fucking drunk as fuck. There was it was one of these clubs where there are no tables and chairs, and I understand why. Because what they want is they want you to come in, have your drink in your hand, so you drink it faster because you can't put it down anywhere.
Yep.
And then they want you to dance and then fuck off. They don't want you sitting down because that takes up room in the club when other people could be coming in.
And you might slow down and drink slower.
Exactly. So I completely understand why they do it. It's just a pain in the ass. And this is why, like, smoking areas are one of the greatest things for clubs, because generally they had like benches out in the smoking area, and granted, a lot of people don't like going out there because they don't like taking the smoke, but the fresh air in itself, when you've been in a club dancing for an hour, you step out into the fresh air,
especially this time of year,
God,
when it's
just
like
jizzed
cool
in your
and
face.
crisp.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And yeah, the other there was something else. Blab for a second.
Yeah. I mean, I don't.
Have you been to many clubs?
Only two.
Only two,
and they were basically complete opposite experience. It was never really like my cup of tea. I think it was because the first club experience I went to was really not enjoyable. It had big dance area, bar, and like one corner that had like booths and tables and things, and that was it. And my problem was the music. It was all shit that I'm like, how the fuck do people dance to this? It was like, like the kind of music I like enjoy dancing to is like hip hop, R&B, something with a beat that I can actually move to. I don't like this club was playing like rock and metal kind of music, and I'm like, I enjoy listening to that genre. I don't enjoy dancing to it, and it was not enjoyable. I did go to a club at another point where they were playing like, again, more stuff that I could dance to, and I did enjoy that one a lot more. But I do know what you mean. Like once you get out into like the cool air and actually get it's amazing. But go on.
There's been some clubs I've been to that have done some pretty interesting things. The first one I ever went to, in fact, back in the place I used to live, they had so the main dance floor, and then there were like balconies round the side, like a second floor with balconies.
Yeah. And
the posh cunts who were wearing like suits and hats and things sat up there and didn't actually dance. I don't know why they bothered coming.
To look down on the plebs.
Yeah, I guess. But affixed to those balconies, not saying that people can interact with, but I guess it's on an electric circuit or something, were like these mist cannons, and it would fire like a cloud of fog, of like cold water mist across the dance floor. So refreshing. You're mid-dance, and there's like...
That actually
the whole room
amazing.
is just like instantly fogged, and you get a nice cold. Another one I went to, it was actually a kind of a rock one, and like about an hour into it, they were just like, we just ordered 3 massive pizzas, everyone just takes slices for free. And they walked around the I'm like, fuck yes, that's awesome.
It's a Planet Fitness maneuver right there.
Then so the one that we actually went to, I didn't really understand what the message behind it was, but there was a theme to it, kind of thing, and they had like this zombified face of Trump on a bunch of like electronic boards and things, and it was some kind of like, you know, brainwash the people kind of message.
Everybody dance. It's gonna be we're gonna have a huge dance.
I just found it fucking hilarious because this is a city that obviously fucking hates Trump.
Yeah.
Like, it's just this kind of city thing. And so I guess that's what it was. But I was just seeing Trump everywhere. And it was just hilarious to me because I was dancing and then there was fucking zombie Trump up there above me. Yeah. It was weird, but it was fucking fun.
So I've probably shown you this video before, but this has nothing to do with dancing, but just because you mentioned Trump, it reminded me of this. You know, back in 2019, I think it was, during all like the Hong Kong protests where they were trying to get independence from China, and China was like, "Fuck you, we're gonna arrest random people and beat you in the street." There were people going around interviewing random protesters and people throughout it, and one of the people they entered it was like this chubby Asian dude, and he's got this big flag that said something in Cantonese or Mandarin, and actually it was written, so it would have just been Chinese. The spoken language is what's different. And the guy's like, do you have anything to say to the president of the United States, like about what's going on here and everything like that? And the protester was like, Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is asshole. And I don't know why I was thinking about it the other day, but I went and I watched the video back, and it's hilarious because the guy says it with such like verve and sincerity.
Yeah. I mean, he's not wrong.
No, I mean it's a very sincere and very true statement.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to live there.
No, I feel bad for Hong Kong because they kind of like had they're like Taiwan. They're kind of an example of what mainland China could be if they were allowed to operate in a non-authoritarian state. But yeah, sorry, that got a little. I don't know. Got there from clubbing. But,
yeah. Well, I was just gonna do one more short topic to wind up the.
You wind up segment
part.
1, and then we can move on to Phantom of the Opera.
The positive gaming edition recently. So we've started playing Counter-Strike earlier this week, right? Again.
Yeah, and god damn it, I am so out of practice.
Yes, God, I fucking suck. I tried a few like 5v5s, and I'm just abysmal at it now.
Yeah.
But they have introduced some interesting new things. For a start, and I don't know if you noticed this while we were playing, you can use a riot shield now.
I didn't notice that. I want to do that.
Yeah, it's in the heavy section, which is where the shotguns are, so I'm surprised you didn't see it.
No, literally, I was playing that game on autopilot. It's like, okay, start match, buy shotgun, buy pistol.
You've seen everything so many times before that, yeah, I get it, yeah.
I run through the exact, routine, and I just kind of phase out everything that I don't.
So, the Riot Shield gives you a global slow buff. A debuff, whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, slow. It makes you slow, yes.
Yes. A little bit. Even when you've got it on your, not equipped, it makes you a little bit slower.
Yeah.
When you've got it equipped, you can't use any weapon, but you can, if you're close to a person and you, click, then you can, kill them with it, essentially.
Yeah, do it melee.
It blocks a certain amount of damage before shattering. I think it's very much not used by people, even though it just sounds like a really fucking fun thing.
It does, yeah.
And also, when you got it on your back, it still deflects bullets from the back. So it's like the pan from PUBG.
From PUBG, yeah.
So yeah, that's a fun thing. And also, from CSGO, I noticed they've added, which you'll really appreciate, you can have half match lengths now in 5v5 competitive play.
Oh my god, fuck yes.
Yep. 5v5s, you can go to so before it was I think 16 to win a game.
Yes.
Now
so
you can have
upwards of
where you
31. Yeah, you get upwards of 31 rounds.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So you've halved that playtime if you'd like to choose that mode.
I might actually play the competitive mode a little bit more because I enjoyed it. But by the end, I'd be so sick of the match after.
Especially if it's going badly after the first 2 minutes and you're just like, oh fuck, this is going to be a slog, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, or more often what would happen is it'd go really good for the first 8 rounds, and then people would get bored, or somebody would piss somebody off, or somebody would quit, and then it would go bad, and then it's like you just have to sit there watching the match go wrong for another
decline.
20 minutes. Yeah. It was bad. I'd love to play. That's one of the reasons I primarily played Wingman in that game with you it was really short and quick to the point.
And that's why we played a game on literally Sunday or something, Monday, I don't know.
Yeah.
And for the rest, cause I literally played it again later that night. Found these things out, and then I was like, shit, I want to talk to Kaiser about this on the podcast. I'm just not going to play CSGO with Kaiser for the rest of the week. And I still failed at doing that.
Oh my god. Yeah, we did play Wingman, yeah.
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 But no, I might actually start playing more Counter-Strike again. because I've already got quite a bit of time in it, but not compared to any kind of professional at it, and I'm still super shit at it. They've put me down to the Silver League, so I actually might be able to play with you in 5v5 now.
Yeah. I still remember that. I think that ranking system was so fucked. We would go pretty much even in terms of scores, and somehow it kept me in the same league, but it put you all the way up to the highest rank in the game. And we were playing together.
Yeah, that was in Wingman.
Yeah.
That was pretty dumb. But yeah, I don't know. There's not many games out there that get ranking systems right, I don't think.
The only game that I've personally found that and I'm horribly biased with this, was StarCraft 2. And I think most of that comes down to the fact that it's a single... Well, okay, I guess there's 2v2 and 3v3 and 4v4, but no one really plays those. In the 1v1 is where the ladder really is, and they do a very good job matching you against people who are on a level with you, and they do a good job with how they measure advancement in MMR and things like that. It really does seem to be very well put together.
I think the game that comes to mind for me that gives a ranking system that makes me actually interact more with the game was Minion Masters, because
I remember that game.
If you put in the time and the effort, anyone could get a pretty fucking... you could get to whatever it was, Master. I'm thinking of CSGO now.
Whatever it was, a high rank.
And if you wanted to super fucking try hard, then the last tier is literally just a countdown to the best player in the world. You can see exactly where you want.
StarCraft did that too. It starts off in bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, master, and then grandmaster is just the top 200 people in that region, and then it counts down to the top one. But I really enjoyed Minion Masters. Oh, and I feel like I have to tell this story every time we talk about Minion Masters. I love the Genesis story for how you and Mask got me into that game, because I was in Switzerland on a work trip, and all I had was a shitty laptop, and I popped into Discord and I couldn't play anything else. And you guys were like, "Oh, we're playing this game, Minion Masters." Originally it was a game that you could get on Discord as a game when they were trying to be like a game platform like Steam.
Yeah.
And so I just remember the night after the audit, when I was settling into the hotel, all I did was play fucking Minion Masters with you guys for 4 hours before bed. Honestly,
I don't even remember when Mass played. That was a very long time ago, and she didn't play for long.
I'm trying to remember when that trip was. That was probably in early 2019 or late 2018. It was a few years ago now.
And they did a lot of things right, and they kind of got a bit worse over time because they went a bit money grubby with the new content and the what's it called, Battle Pass. They had a really good Battle Pass set up, and then they made it kind of shitty.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these live service games, that's their life cycle. They start off cool and interesting, and they give you fun stuff, and then over time they just grow more and more shitty.
Yeah.
But that's how it goes.
Yeah. But yeah, we're going to be talking about something very old and not shitty now.
Mm-hmm. The Phantom of the Opera is here. Sorry, that was...
Is that how it goes?
I don't know. I think so.
There. No.
Is it there? I think it's
I don't
here.
know. Anyway, I'll remember it for the next part.
Yeah. Excuse us while we try to refresh our memory on the movie we just watched. Anyway, this is going to be the end of segment 1 of the TMCJ podcast. Thank you all for listening, and you'll hear us again momentarily for segment 2. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on segment 2, our media segment. We had movie night, and it was Alicia's choice, and this
After
week...
2 weeks.
Yeah, that's true, yeah, it's been a while. We did watch Phantom of the Opera, the 2004 version, and
Yeah.
I had never seen any rendition of it. Not a theater performance of it, not the old movies, not the new movie. I didn't even know there was a new movie.
Is there a new movie?
Well, the 2004 one.
Oh, okay.
Compared to the 1980s one and the 1920s one, that it is new.
Gotcha.
And apparently is a book that I've never read.
Yes,
it's
the
one
original.
Of those, one of those classics that just slipped by me. How should we do this? Do you want to give the plot synopsis, or should I?
I mean, you love giving the synopsis. How about you do it, and I'll just, tell you you're wrong every time you get something.
I'm probably going to get a lot wrong.
Also, I should say just before this, I've read the book. I should say I've listened to the book. I listened to it on Audible like a couple of years ago. And it's quite different, but also they got a lot of things the same as the book, which I appreciated.
Yeah, the big classic book that I went through on Audible, which took fucking forever, was The Count of Monte Cristo, which is I highly recommend, but dear God, is it a long fucking book. And it's clear that it was written in the 1800s because there is a lot of exposition and a lot of character banter. Anyway.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on. You
I was just going to say, I definitely got that feeling when I started trying to read Les Mis audiobook. And I just got like pages and pages and pages of, there's this priest that lives in a village. That's basically all it boiled down to.
Yeah. I mean, you get that going through like the old Lord of the Rings books, like the Fellowship of the Ring. It's like, or one of the later ones, it's like entire 5 chapters of them just walking and chatting with each other. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Okay, so let's see if I can do the plot justice. Because honestly, most of what I remember is just the music. 'Cause the music was fucking phenomenal in this one. I loved it. So it opens up, and we're introduced to an auction, right? That's happening in the future in black and white. The theater is all decrepit. Yeah, the future from the point of where most of the story takes place. It's all, and they're auctioning off a bunch of stuff, and they're referencing some tragic event of the Phantom of the Opera. And sorry,
specifically, the auction was in 1919, so immediately post-war. So the opera house, possibly, I can't remember if it had been in the book or not. I think the opera house got bombed. I could be wrong.
Okay.
That could maybe not. It's just the fact that it's 1919 made me think of it.
So it's immediately after the war. And the actual plot of the story, I think, takes place something like 50 years before that or something. It's 1800s,
yeah, 40
right?
or 50, yeah.
1800s. So they're auctioning off stuff, and they reference the tragic events of the Phantom of the Opera and the night and the house and whatnot, and so that's all foreshadowing for what's happening. And there are some older people here who clearly are getting emotional, remembering back. They were there. You can kind of get that impression. And then we cut back to everything's suddenly
beautifully, I might add. Like that part where the chandelier's rising and that scene was beautiful.
I got tingles because they cue the iconic Phantom of the Opera theme, and I was like, even just remembering it, I'm getting tingles now. I just want to watch that scene again.
The organ music and
there's something really surreal and powerful, about a good organ, music. Yeah.
And then they flash past 12 different statues with their tits out, and it's like, whoa, powerful.
What were we talking about with the Tyrannid?
So flashback to the past.
Flashback to, and they do this in the movie. It's also done in a very, I think, really good way, where it's all black and white in the future, and then when it goes back to the actual plot where the movie is kind of the time where most of the movie is taking place, it goes to color. I liked that. It's a visual touch that I enjoy. But so it goes back, and then they're prepping for some big show, and then there's this opera singer on stage, and she's going through lines, and then they're all rehearsing, and then in comes these 3 men. One of them is the owner of the theater, and the other 2 are the people who have just taken over for him. He announces that he's retiring, and these are the people who are taking over for him, and they're a bit bumbly, and it's
retiring early for his mental health.
Yeah, his mental health, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
This I think he's like going to the seaside or something like that, retiring somewhere tropical or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's
foreshadowing.
And it's implied that these two are a bit like of bumblers. Like they're like, oh yes, they're in the junk business and they've made their fortune there, and so now they've bought this, and the one guy is always quick to remind people scrap metal business, and clearly somebody who's a little insecure. And the one that's not that guy always like I only
very business.
Yeah, I said this. He's very business savvy, but he's also he also plays Julius Caesar in the HBO Rome series, and that's the only role I really knew him from. So every time he shouted, I was just thinking like Caesar giving a speech to the troops. It amused me. So there's a little bit of banter between the characters. Some of the people in the back there, like the lesser known background singers and performers, the people who aren't the divas, they have a little bit of. Sorry?
I was going to say, that should be said, that the main operatic singer lady is like the classic definition of a diva. 100%.
Like, just at the slightest thing, if something's just not perfectly right. There's a lot of good reasons for that. Like, opera singers in general, their voices tend to burn out by the time they're 30. Just because, like, even when they were rehearsing, this is a fun little piece of trivia for you. Even when opera singers rehearsed, like the main singers, a lot of the times they would rehearse their lines and they would whisper it. Because they didn't want to wear out their voice before the actual performance.
Yeah.
So she was a little bit over the top, but there is an element of reason behind why they would be like that. Because they're kind of like, sports stars. They don't want to burn out by the time they're 30.
Yeah.
Anyway, a little bit of back and forth there. And then it's revealed they get a note as they've taken over the theater. And the note is from, the Phantom of the Opera, the titular character.
Ghost.
And, what?
The opera ghost, I believe they call him.
Oh, opera ghost. Okay. But they still receive a letter, and it has some stipulations. He has a salary that he expects to be paid. There's a box seat that always has to be left open for him. And
box 5.
Yeah, box 5. And then, I can't remember, was it a third condition, or was it just the pay and the box?
Oh, God. Testing my memory.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was just those two.
Those are the two major things, yeah.
And they're like, oh, this is silly. What is this? And he, in the letter, he refers to it as his theater. And they're, a little bit miffed, and they're like, oh, this is stupid, and they move on. What? Oh, and then after that...
Well, in that scene, they also bring in the sweetheart, who is
right, yeah, they piss off the diva, and the diva storms off, and so they need to figure out, like, a substitute or something like that.
No. I mean, the person who's, like, paying for it all, the
Oh, right. I completely forgot about this. Yep. So they bring in, he's like a count or a duke or something like that, or a baronet. Some noble rank of some variety.
Yeah.
And he comes in, and he's recognized by a couple of the girls backstage. Like, oh, I grew up with him, and we knew each other back in the day. And and he's the money behind the two. He's the one who's kind of a patron of the arts, helping finance the theater. And he talks to them for a while and then walks off. And is this where the diva storms off? Like, did she quit at this point, or is there?
I can't remember if it was before or after that, but yeah.
Yeah, but something happens, and the diva doesn't want to perform, and so they decide to throw
Something falls on her.
That's what it was. She was rehearsing, and some mysterious figure up in the rafters unties something, and it almost hits her. And that's when she storms off, and it's like, oh, I'm not having any of this, and blah, blah, blah. And so they decide to throw in somebody from the B team. This girl who she was
knew the lines.
Yeah, that knew the lines and could sing very well, and she rehearsed it. And just think like, she was honestly, I think that they when they were casting this, they found the perfect person for that role, because she managed to like strike the perfect balance between like starry-eyed innocence and what's the word I'm looking for? Naivete, maybe? I don't know. But I think that the person like was right for the. It felt like a
likable character.
Yeah, the casting in this movie I thought was really good. Like, everyone seemed to really fit their roles pretty well,
except for the Phantom.
Yeah,
for reasons that if you haven't read the book, then it's fine. It doesn't make a difference.
Exactly.
But for me, it irked me.
for me, also when I was reading the description of him after the movie, I was like, wow, they prettied him up for this. Because he's in the book, he's like they describe him apparently as like missing a nose and stuff like that. It's just like, ooh.
He looks a lot older than the beautiful man that they had portraying him.
Yeah,
and
Phantom in this movie was Gerard Butler, which the only thing I knew him from really was 300 and the Law-Abiding Citizen. 300. It was a very, very big change to see him go from King Leonidas of the Spartans over to the Phantom of the Opera.
And to be fair, when you do see him without his mask on, they did a good job of making him look hideous.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Anyway, so she takes over. Turns out she's really, really good, and then they have the opening night with the play, and it goes off. It's a huge hit. And she's like just the new sensation. Everyone loves her. And then cut to the evening. Well, actually, no. Patron guy, the noble, recognizes her as like, oh, that's my childhood friend. I remember her. And he goes to her dressing room and goes to bring her flowers and talk to her. They bond over like, oh, remember this, remember that, and what?
God, I can't make the slightest facial movement, can I?
So I rely on your facial expressions during these plot synopses to let me know when I'm either fucking up or when you want to say something.
Just before he comes in, the matron comes in and hands her the single rose with the black ribbon.
From the Phantom, yes. That's a key point. Anyway, so he goes in, talks to her, they bond and reminisce. And then he goes off and he's like, oh, you know, we haven't seen each other in so long, you know, like come, you know, we'll go out and we'll do whatever. Basically, he's saying like, come to my carriage, you know, we'll go and, you know, have dinner and reminisce
together.
And
she's like, no, I can't do that. I have to practice singing.
Exactly. And then this is where things get a little weird, because she, like, when he leaves to go get his carriage, a mysterious figure locks her door, and then there's this kind of duet song going on where she is almost like entranced, it seems like, and she turns back towards her mirror, and there's this very dapper, mysterious figure where the mirror was, with a mask covering half of his face.
Inside of the mirror.
And they sing a fucking phenomenal duet. I love this song. Like, it's absolutely amazing. And where he kind of lures and takes her down into like
almost hypnotizes her.
Yeah, it did feel like that. Yeah, like she was entranced. Brings her down into the dungeons of the theater.
I think a scene we missed. But I'm sure the whole connection between her and the Phantom is that he's actually been teaching her how to sing for like years, but she's never seen him before.
You're right. A scene that we missed is her talking to one of her co-stars, and talking about her angel of music who has brought her and coached her all her life from the shadows, and how her father told her on his death that he would send to her the angel of music to watch over her after he was gone. and that's what she thinks this voice is that she's hearing all throughout, her life,
and he
coaching her.
Took advantage of that.
Yeah, yeah. And so she sees him in the mirror, and then in this entranced scene, she's constantly referring to him as her angel of music. And so he brings her down into like the depths of his, like it's like a labyrinth below the theater that goes down and down into this area, and they get to a boat and like go up to this area where he's got his little workshop, I guess, for lack of a better term, where he's got like
lair.
Lair. There we go. He brings her down to the Batcave, and there's all this other stuff there, and they have a very, I don't know how to, sensual, let's say, interaction. They don't.
So she's like mind fucked, and she's just kind of wandering around. And then she's
but what I mean is like he's slowly getting closer, and they're It's not explicitly sexual, but there are deep sexual undertones in that scene.
Yeah, like when he's to get to his lair, like I think as I said, they have to like he ferries her in a gondola.
Yeah.
And the music just before they finish on the gondola is very I believe it's the part of the song where he's like, "Sing for me," and it's very kind of aggressive the way that he's singing, and she's singing back to him.
And it's the song, I think, is like the line is the music of the night or something like that.
Yeah, he's saying, "Sing my angel of music, sing for me."
God, I just want to listen to the soundtrack again.
Yeah,
it really, like, trust me when I say, like, the soundtrack's on YouTube, so you can listen to it for free. The soundtrack alone is worth watching this movie. Like, just the visuals are really good. I understand, like, if you like you said, if you're familiar with the book, maybe the casting choices aren't perfect, but it's just,
I think they got a lot of things right.
Yeah, it's a really enjoyable watch too. Anyway, so after this duet goes on for a while, she just passes out and collapses.
You remember why she passes out?
I remember he was like feeling up on her.
So he parts a curtain, and on the other side of the curtain is like a picture of her basically in a wedding dress. It's not a picture of her.
Yeah,
it's like an actual
mannequin.
wedding dress.
Yeah, a mannequin that's built up to look. Yeah, exactly. So some sort of an effigy of that. I wasn't sure what that was. Like, it flashed so quickly the first time we were watching it. I was like, was that a body? Like, is that the last girl he brought down here?
It was a very close to realistic picture of her kind of thing.
Model
of her.
Yeah, model in a mannequin form. And then she passes out, and he lays her into like this
super rapey bed.
It was, but honestly, that I thought that looked like a. Okay, now that you said
it's a
that,
cool bed.
I was going to say it looks like a really cool bed.
Yeah, but it's just
candles
the
around,
situation.
red blankets, and it's like in this little grotto behind a curtain.
And then like the black veil descends, and he's on the other side. You just see the fucking white face, super creepy. Like,
yeah. I honestly, I was surprised that they didn't go with like a plot line of them banging, but I actually think it was story-wise. I think it was a better decision that they didn't go down that route.
Bear in mind, up until this point, for years, she's seen this person as a teacher and as someone a lot older than her, because this person is a lot older than her.
Yeah. The actors didn't really. I mean, there's an age difference in the actors. I think we looked this up afterwards.
Is.
She was 18 when they
16.
filmed. No, 18.
I'm pretty sure Alyssa said 16.
Okay, she was 18 when the movie came out, according to the IMDb page.
Okay.
So that actually means, probably during filming she would have been 16 or 17. And the actor who was portraying the Phantom, he would have been in his
40-something.
No, 30s. I looked this. We looked this up because the movie came out in 2004. He was born in 69. So when the movie came out, he was 35.
Okay.
Which would have made...
That's probably right. I don't know.
Yeah, so if we're going 2 years back, then filming, he would have been 33. And she would have been... Again, enough of an age difference that kind of the creepiness of the relationship is kind of almost... is kind of conveyed in the way that the... Because that's how it was in the actual story. Like, I think in the book you were saying he was even older than that.
Yeah, I believe so.
So yeah. But this all gets tied up in the plot later, and there's a reason why this guy is kind of going to lengths. Anyway, so it's established that she's gone missing. People are looking for her up top and trying to figure out what happens. I forget. Do they go to that scene first, or do they go to the next scene where she wakes up next?
She wakes up and then she takes off his mask and he punches her.
I just couldn't remember if that happened next or if they went to the people up top first.
No, they went to people up top afterwards.
Yeah. So people are looking for her. The noble doesn't know what happened to her and is like, oh, where'd she go? And the mother, who kind of spoke for the girl to get her the part, is like, I was like, oh, don't question it, don't worry about it, like there's nothing you can do. And it's like, okay, that's kind of weird and foreboding, like why creepy. Do you know about this? Also, yeah, Mother of the Year right there. And then it cuts back down to like, her in the grotto as she wakes up and is looking around, and he's at his desk and he's writing something, and then I think they start singing a little bit again, and then she takes his mask off. And he reacts in a very apoplectic fashion, just like knocks her to the ground, covers his face, and starts shouting like, "Oh, what did you do, you fucking horrible person?" And doesn't swear, but
he basically does for the time.
Yeah, for the time, yeah.
Yes.
And says something like, "Oh, now that you've seen me, you can never return," and stuff. All like just this.
Yeah. There's quite a few, like, Persephone-esque vibes I get from the film somewhere.
Yeah. I could see
that.
I mean,
obviously, she isn't eating his fruit. But
it does follow, like, that kind of, like, the same Greek...
Especially when you see, like, the spiral staircase descending as if into hell. And then the boat scene, it's like the river Styx.
Yeah. Who was it that... Was it Orpheus, the guy that tried to bring her out of hell and then looked back? Or
the
something?
bard.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Orpheus. I'm getting my Greek myths fucked up, but
I don't think it was.
Doesn't matter.
Some bard and he fucked up like an idiot.
There's a story in Greek mythology where somebody goes down into Hades and the girl's lover has to go to rescue her, and the deal is he can bring her out, but he can't look back at her until they're out of Hades, until they're out of the cave. And they're almost out, and he turns around, looks back, and sees that she's rotten and decrepit, and because he turned back, she gets sucked back down into Hades, and he's fucked.
Not too dissimilar to the old Bible story with the...
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sodom
and Gomorrah, yeah. Where the man's told not to look back, and when he does, it turns his family into pillars of salt or something like that.
Well, no, he doesn't look back. I thought they did.
They did.
They turned to
stone.
Did,
and he doesn't. Yeah, and they turn to pillars of salt, particularly.
Yeah, salt.
That has nothing to do with Phantom of the Opera, though.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, so eventually she does get let out, and he agrees to let her go back, but tells her that she has to keep studying music and, under his tutelage and whatnot.
And she will be the star and no one else.
Exactly. And so now we cut back to the two weirdo businessmen who are like, one's in a panic, half the staff is gone, what happened? Like, the star got kidnapped and the diva's not coming back and all this stuff. And the other guy's like, this is great for business, gossip is the best advertising around and whatnot. And
lots of notes.
Yeah. And then this is like, I think when the diva bursts in and they're trying to convince her to be the star again. And oh no, that's what it is. they all get a letter. So they get a letter
Yeah.
from the Phantom, and he's like, what the fuck? You didn't pay me my salary. You didn't keep my box open. Here are my conditions. Please do these things. And also, this girl's going to be the star of the show. And then, apparently...
I think he's a count.
What?
The good boyfriend is a count, I think.
A count. Well, he comes back in this scene, and he apparently received a letter that was addressed to him from one of the theater guys. And I don't remember what it says, but they didn't write it. Obviously, it was supposed to be from the Phantom. And then the diva shows up, and she gets a letter saying that, you're bumped off the top spot, and this girl's going to be the lead now. And it was addressed from the Count, but it was from the Phantom. And so they're all having...
I don't think he put any names in any of them. People just assumed that it was from certain people.
Oh, okay. I didn't pick up on that. I thought he actually, gave a false,
Because that'd be a bit fucking childish, wouldn't it, if he was just like, I'm going to say this one's from the janitor.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. The guy lives in a cave.
He's also a genius. I think he would have had a better plan than that.
Probably, yeah. Anyway, so that all happens, and they have this other scene where they're trying to talk the diva back onto the stage again, and she tries to leave, and she sees outside a bunch of adoring fans for her replacement. And she's immediately like, I think her pride takes over, and she's like, okay, I gotta get back on stage, otherwise they're just gonna keep loving this new girl, and I'm washed up. So they cast her as the main part.
Against the ghost's wishes.
Against the ghost's wishes, and they don't keep his box open, again, against his wishes. So the play begins, and they go about completely, they get fucked, because the Phantom switches out her little spritzer to moisturize her throat and everything with something that's gonna... I honestly thought that he was gonna kill her here. When I saw him switch out her spritzer thing, the main diva singer, I was like, that bitch is dead. I was like, that's like cyanide or something like that. She's gonna die on stage or start coughing up
someone
blood.
died, just not her.
True, yeah. But so he switches it out, and so when she goes to spritz her throat, she starts it just basically makes it swell up, so she can't sing properly, and she's like,
yeah.
And so they have to switch her out with the girl that he wanted to be in the lead. And I think midway through the performance as well, he walks out into the upper tier of the theater and just goes I demanded that box 5 be open.
That's what he does before the spritzing, because then they do the song again, and that's when she needs the extra
That's
spritz.
when she does it, and then they switch things around. Yeah.
What I didn't understand was that because they switched to have the girl that he wanted singing, and then he continues to fuck with them.
I think the reason he continued to fuck with them was because, they did it begrudgingly, but then they also didn't keep his box open, and they still didn't pay him.
True.
Yeah. Anyway, so the play goes on, and then at the end of it, she has a interaction with the Count. Oh, sorry, I skipped a step. There's a stage manager, and he sees the Phantom kind of moving around in the rafters and goes to try and catch him or to see him, and the Phantom has a tussle with him, strangles him, and then ties him in a noose and then drops him down on the stage. And that's how the play ends, because a body just fucking falls down and it starts hanging in the middle of the set. They're like, oh, it's a tragic accident, please, people, be calm. And
stay in your seats. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so that all ends, and then there is a bit of a song and a dance between the Count and the new main girl, the one who had been lured down into the Phantom's cavern, where he's professing his love for her. She obviously is in love with him, but she knows that she can't go because she's afraid of the Phantom, what he might do, because he killed a dude just for seeing him. And he fucked with the main star's throat and all this stuff, and she's like, how can I leave? This man just kills on a whim. And eventually throughout this scene, she is won over by the Count, who is like, it's like, okay, don't worry about him. I'll protect you. I'll be with you. It's worth it. This
I'll
man
hide you.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is something that you couldn't say these days. Hiding your woman away.
Keep your woman in the closet. Yeah. What?
Jesus.
Which actually that comes to the next scene. They wander off, and she's dropped his rose in the snow, and he picks it up, and now he's very embittered. And the Phantom goes, because he sees this whole interaction between her and the Count, and he goes into a song and dance about how, he's feeling betrayed, and he's going to ascend. I don't know if he's swearing revenge or if he's trying
He
to
talks
win
about
her.
like starting a war against them.
Essentially, yeah. He very clearly feels betrayed in any case.
Yeah.
And cut to sometime later when the theater is throwing a masquerade and the people dancing around and a musical thing. And there, before this scene, there's a where the girl and the Count walk in, and it's clear that they're engaged now, but she wants to keep it a secret because she's still scared of the Phantom.
Are they engaged?
Yeah, they are. But she tells him that they need to keep their engagement a secret, and so she has the engagement ring that she hides in her, in her cleavage, which is a plot point that comes up later. What was I just saying? Oh, so right,
they're dancing in the masquerade.
Yeah, and then boom, cue the Phantom. He pops in like a very I thought this was a great entrance.
Yeah, but what was weird was that everyone recognized him as the Phantom, despite no one knowing who he is.
That's true. Yeah, a bit contrived, but it's narratively important. Because everyone else is in like black or white, and he shows up in like a bright red tuxedo with a cape and a sword on his belt, and I'm like, that is a fucking entrance. So he comes in and he sings about like, oh, you thought I was gone? I've been preparing something. He throws a manuscript down on the ground. He's like, I wrote a play or an opera or whatever, and you guys are going to do this shit.
Don Juan.
And then he gets into a fucking, like, he pulls out his sword and like, starts threatening and intimidating people. And the Count runs off and comes. I thought he was just being a bitch, but he runs off and he comes back with a sword and goes after the Count, who disappears through like a puff of smoke and a trapdoor in the floor.
With the dude, yeah.
Yeah, and the Count doesn't end up trying to catch him, and now cut to a scene where they're scheming and conniving to try and trap the Count. Between the theater owners and trap the Phantom. And so the Count and the theater owners are talking to the mother, and they're like, oh, we have a way to catch him now because she has to perform. That it's his play, so he's going to be watching. So we bring the police in, and we're gonna catch him when he's watching the play.
Yep.
We get to the actual play. I don't think there's too much that happens in... Oh, the graveyard scene. The graveyard scene happens. So the woman, she goes off because all of this is getting to be a bit too much for her, and she goes to visit her father's grave. And so there's a long song where she's there, and when she gets there, singing about, her angel of music and about her father, and doing some soul searching, essentially. The Count realizes, oh god, this is going to be a trap. The Phantom's probably like waiting for her or something like that. He rushes off to catch her, and the Count does show up, from like a mausoleum in the graveyard, just pops up in a puff of smoke and starts again.
Well, to be fair, I mean, he actually was the one that drove her there.
Yeah. It's that whole entranced kind of thing. It feels like she's being hypnotized by him.
Yeah, well, in the book, so she went off back to the place where she used to live with her father, I believe.
Yeah.
And there was a whole bunch of things about her father's violin. And so she went to the grave and she was kind of asking her father for help. And she heard the violin being played.
And the Count was there.
No, the Count was actually not in the scene at all.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge, anyway. But...
Oh, sorry, I meant the Phantom.
The Phantom was that. The Phantom had stolen her father's violin and pretended to be him, like they did in the film. Except he was just on his own, and he just fucking took the shit out of advantage of her.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very different from the movie, yeah. Because in the movie what happens is, again, he's also kind of pretending to be her father, but the Count shows up, and they have a big Errol Flynn fucking sword fight, and the Count loses. No, sorry, the Phantom loses.
It's because Count is normally a villain.
It is, yeah. So now I'm thinking I keep mixing them up in my head.
Dracula in your head, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But so the Phantom loses, and the Count takes the girl off, and the Phantom swears more vengeance or something like that. And now we cut to the night of the performance, and the play is happening, and it's very intense and very dark, which you'd expect because it was written by the Phantom of the Opera instead of like some of the other stuff that had been there earlier. And what happens is, like, during the performance, the Phantom sneaks onto stage and takes the place of one of the actors to sing a duet with the main star, and again seduce/hypnotize her. Oh, he also, I think he shanked the guy who was going to be...
Yeah, he does an Hitman Agent 47.
He just
knifes the dude, and then...
It's like, hey, Jeff, you showed up to work today, and you're a lot balder than before.
Yeah, exactly.
The Hitman video games, famous for their arcadey approach to stealth, where you can just... If you put on somebody's clothes, you're that person. That's how the stealth works in that game. And that's what happens here. He kills the actor, who looks nothing like him, and he just takes his place.
A fat, short man turns into a tall, thin man.
A rather rotund midget, as it were.
Yeah.
It's not actually a midget, but... Can I say midget?
It's our podcast, who the fuck cares?
I don't know what's offensive anymore. Anyway, so they have their duet on stage, and then at the last moment, at like the peak of the song, she rips his mask off.
Yeah.
And everyone sees that he's got a fucked up side of his face, and so he grabs her and takes her down into the dungeon through one of his secret escape routes or whatever, and the police
he throws her off the bridge into the fire pit, which just leads straight into the basement.
Yeah, there's another trap door, and he cues another one of his traps, which is like the fucking chandelier goes ripping down to the ceiling, and like is swinging down into the audience and into the like the pit where the band is, and for all I know, fucking kills everyone. It looks like, I think you said in the book, like a lot of people are supposed to die in that scene. They kind of skirt around that in the movie.
I'm pretty sure it does.
It looks like a few people might get hit, but they don't. They kind of show people running away, so it's kind of up to your own imagination. And now cue like a very this ending, I didn't know what to expect from it, because I was unfamiliar with the source material, and I was like, it can go in any direction at this point.
Count was a fucking idiot.
Yeah, the Count like goes down there to try and rescue the girl, and the Phantom has her down in the dungeon.
He
and
gets stuck in the trash compactor.
They have to call back to C-3PO to shut down the trash compactors. No. Wrong movie.
Same trap, though.
Basically. And so the Count tries to force her to stay with him by threatening to kill her lover if she doesn't love him. And I've saved talking about the Phantom's backstory until now, because I think that this is something that I want to give you a chance to talk about, because you've read the book and you've told me that his backstory is very different in the book. But it's clear throughout the movie that the Phantom is somebody who is starved for human affection. be it like friendly, familial, or what's the word I'm looking? Amorous. And so they like he's desperate in this moment. He's even though he's threatening to kill this guy so that this woman who doesn't want to be with him will stay with him, he's still kind of sympathetic in this scene because you see him like by this stage in the movie, he's been heavily established as a tragic character, as somebody who is just completely starved for human contact and is doing this out of desperation. It's still fucked up what he's doing, but you can kind of see where he's coming from. Anyway, in the final scene, she agrees to stay with him if he'll let him go, and
yes, it's saying just that scene.
Yeah, go
on. The Count arrives, stands there, gets chained to a portcullis by the Phantom.
Yeah.
It's so fucking stupid. He just does nothing.
Neither
does she.
It is kind of contrived. Yeah, the Phantom is the only person who's actively doing anything in that scene.
I can't remember exactly how it ends in the book, but I remember, I think she was dropped into a room where it was super bright and there was like reflective metal trees or something. It was a very weird thing. It was like a kind of a Saw-esque torture room, as I recall.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's very different from the movie.
It might have been mirrors. I don't know. But yeah, it was like it became boiling hot because of the light in the mirrors.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So the way this ends in the movie is that she agrees to stay with him if he'll let the Count go. And that act of like affection, like it kind of breaks him, the Phantom, in that moment. He's just like he got what he wanted, but it's so bittersweet, and he sees how much they care for each other, and he's like, and he can't do it. He lets them both go and tells them, just get out of here, and retreats to his tiny little hovel room, where he's looking at this tiny little toy from his childhood, and just like the one piece of comfort that he has. And she comes back in there, and then she gives him something, or does some very like
she gives him the ring back that he gave her.
Yeah, and it's this tiny act of kindness, and like you can see it, like that more than anything was what he wanted. He wanted that piece of human affection, that little act of kindness. And I think this is where he gives the ring back, and he asks her to return it when he dies or something like that, or put it on his grave or something. Doesn't that happen? Am I misremembering this? Okay.
I don't think so.
But anyway, so she gives it back. They do some stuff to make sure that he isn't caught by the police, and so that he can kind of go off and live his life or whatever, or just so that he's not punished for what he's done.
Which I mean, he should have been, but whatever.
He should have been, yeah. But it's a romantic story. Anyway, so a weird, fucked up romantic story. But they go off and they live happily ever after, and then you find out that the people in the black and white scene from the beginning, the old man in the scene was actually the Count, and the old woman, I believe, was the girl's mother? Or no, I think the girl in the scene was her co-star. Not the diva, but the blonde chick with the huge blonde chick.
I took it as being the mum.
Okay, maybe it was the mom. I thought it was the mom too, but then I was like, did the ages match up? Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of iffy. I think she, the Phantom, and the Count are all roughly the same age, I think.
So it makes sense that the mother would actually, still be around.
Yeah.
Because I gotta remember, people had kids earlier back then, and then the girl was quite young compared to the Count. So if they're both alive, then anyway, and then the Count, he lays like a rose with a ring on the grave of, I think.
Yeah, she
Phantom.
died like a really fucking short time after you see her last. It was like only a few years.
I mean, it was the mid-1800s. People died from random shit all the time.
Yeah. All the older people survived.
So, that's the whole plot, and we have gone a little bit over, but I feel like it's merited, because this is one thing that I wanted us to discuss at the end of this, is the backstory of the Count, because you've read the book and it's very different. I've only seen the movie, and from what you've told me of the book, I think I like that backstory a lot more. But for sake of reference, I'm going to explain the backstory quickly that was in the movie, and then I want you to go through the one in the book.
Cool.
In the movie, he's like some kind of a circus freak. Like, he's born with some sort of abnormality that has his face all fucked up. Yeah. And, like, to the point where even his own mother cringed when he went to, like, kiss her and hug her, and which is awful for a fucking child. Like, to lack that sort of physical connection with another human being. And then either his father or someone else, like, they put him in a freak show and they called him, like, the devil's child, and they glued horns to his head and had, like, people would go in to see him in a cage and everything like that as the guy prodded him and whatnot. And the girl's mother helps him escape because she takes pity on him, and then hides him in the sewers below the theater, and he spent his whole life building all these secret things and trapdoors around the theater and everything.
This is when the girl's mother was a little girl.
Yeah. So years and years ago.
Yeah.
So that's what it is in the movie. Book.
So, and again, bear in mind I read this 2 years ago, so a lot of details are squiffy, but I believe it's somewhere out in the Middle East, and he was... the Phantom of the Opera's name is Eric, by the way.
Yeah.
Not mentioned in the movie. He was a famous and incredible architect, and he made all these like basically labyrinths and kind of intricate mazes and things and traps to keep wealthy people's jewels and treasures safe. So he does a job for this like king or prince or something, and the king/prince is like, okay, no one is able to get in there now except the architect who made it. So I'm gonna trap the architect in there, which he did. So Eric was stuck in his own creation, and when he was trying to escape, he got like acid splash or something on his face, and yeah, that's why the scarring from his face came from. He then went back and murdered the king/prince before retreating to France, where he bought I believe he bought the theatre along with someone else. And he also had a servant the whole time as well.
So him calling it his theater in the movie, it makes a lot more sense in that context.
Yeah. I mean, it still makes sense in the movie's context because he's put so much into the theatre.
Yeah.
And he, like, the very entire underground of the theatre has been architected by him. I don't know what the word I'm looking for that is. But,
designed?
Yeah, that works. And you do actually see in the film there are like booby traps and other ambush
right, even the trap door in the main ballroom that he disappears in during the masquerade.
And like all of the walls in the place are like there's rooms behind all the walls that no one knows about.
Yeah.
So that's how people think he's a ghost, because he can move from one part of the theatre to another a lot faster than anyone else could.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if I remember right from the synopsis that I read, the person that he worked, I think they specifically call out Persia as the place. Which, for those that don't know, Persia is what Iran was called before they called it Iran. Iran. Fun story. Iran actually changed their name to Iran because they it was something to do with trying to like sync up with Europe or something like that, or they changed the name because before that, if you look on like old maps from the 1800s and stuff, like Iran is referred to as Persia, and they call themselves Persia. I don't remember why Iran.
It's honestly a far nicer name than Iran.
I really like Persia. I think if I remember right, the reason they switched it to Iran was because they referred to themselves as like the Aryan people, and Iran Aryan. It's something to do with that. I'm a little bit foggy on that bit of history, but normally I'm better with these historical like trivia bits, but not today. But no, I actually really like that backstory a lot more. I think it makes a lot more sense, and it's a little bit less contrived.
Yeah, but it also means that the lady, the mother of the girl, had a lot more influence regarding the Phantom in the film, whereas in the book, the lady was literally just someone who worked at the place, and she was the one who she kind of just was kind of friends with the opera ghost, but not in the sense that they talked to each other. Just whenever he needed something, she'd be the one to deliver it to Box 5. She would do all the things relating to the ghost, because she was her go-between.
Where in the movie, she was sort of his savior. And almost a mother figure for him, too. Which makes the relationship even creepier.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
But yeah.
Because she wouldn't go into his lair, but at the same time she knew about the passageways behind the mirror and such.
Yeah. Which makes it even weirder that she, was just perfectly chill with her daughter.
Yeah, her daughter being there when people are getting murdered around it.
Yeah. Not Mother of the Year right there. But
anyway, yes, great movie.
Yeah. I despite... And this is the thing. I wanted to have that little piece because I actually think I'm going to read the book now, or at least listen to the audiobook, because I have a bunch of Audible credits to use up. And now that I'm actually going into the office again, I have a commute in which to listen to them. But there's... I really, really enjoyed it. It's a very dark plot line. There's a few contrived points, but the acting was great. The music was on point, and it was visually stunning. You don't even some of the plot quibbles that you mentioned. I didn't even really notice when I was watching it until you pointed them out, because it really does suck you in, and it just kind of ironically, it just kind of hypnotizes you. You get into the movie and you're listening to the music and watching it. It's just great. I'm probably gonna buy the movie and I'm probably gonna watch it again and just it seems like the perfect kind of movie to just sit there and watch. A lot of when I'm watching stuff, I have to be doing something else at the same time, something to occupy my hands or whatever. This one is one I feel like I could just sit down, watch, and just let myself get sucked in. But yeah, we're already pretty over on this segment, so but it was worth it. I felt like we had a lot to say about this one.
It was unlike some movies where they're really good movies, but they have very little to talk about. This is a story-rich, flavorful film where it's one of those ones you could talk about forever.
Yeah, we could, if we wanted to, we could probably pick apart each and every scene and go oh, this is this. There's a lot to be said about this. What could we say about this character? Oh, this was a little edgy. What do we want to say about this scene? And I did gloss over a few points when I was going over the plot synopsis, mainly just for time, but God.
So yeah, go watch it.
Watch it. It's excellent. Anyway, all right, this is going to be the end of segment 2 of the TMCJ podcast. Thank you all for listening, and you'll hear us again momentarily for segment 3. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We're on segment 3, our wild card segment, and this week the wild card is very tame. We're going back to segment 1, in fact. We had a bunch of topics. Blue told me he had 6 or so to talk about. We went through a few of them in segment 1. Took a little break to talk about the Phantom of the Opera, and now we're back to topics.
A little break.
A little break, yeah. It was a very long segment, but fuck it.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to talk about, it's partially a philosophical thing and partially just kind of a modern social commentary kind of thing. There's this concept, and I remember reading about it months and months ago, and it was something that it made sense to me, and it was okay, that's an interesting argument about it. And I've been thinking about it more and more now that I've been going back into the office and starting to travel for work again and things. And it's this the best way I've heard it described is the somewheres versus the anywheres. So to put it in another way, there are people who, by merit of their social class, by merit of their education, by merit of their vocation, they're able to essentially live and thrive anywhere. Like, for instance, based on my career and my education, I could, if I so chose, I could move to the UK and work there. I could work in Germany, pretty much anywhere in Europe. I just have to pick up the language. But because of what my specialty is, I'm able to work even in Japan. Like, to an extent, I could probably work there because it's just pharma. But then there are people who are like the somewheres, like the people who, like, they're really linked to a place. Like, think somebody who, like, they've got a family business in a small town and they've run it for like 3 generations. They've got deep roots in the community. Like, you know, they've known this neighbor's family for like 20 years or something like that. Farmers are a good example of that too. Like, people who have worked their own land for like X number of years.
The example I'm thinking of is the family from Coco.
Yeah, that's a good example. The shoemaker family. Yeah. That they're been there for generations. And the thought that I was having around this is, well, I think both of them have like a lot of merit, and the older I get, the more appeal the somewhere kind of lifestyle has to me. Like, actually being from a place and putting down roots, and then like just having that generational mentality of just like, you know, this is my town, this is my home, these are my neighbors and my friends, and I've known them for years and things like that. Because it's not something that I've ever had in my life. Because even my parents, like, my dad, when he was growing up, he moved all over the place. Like, I think for a while they were living out in Ohio. He lived in Florida for a while, and then he lived in Massachusetts again. My mother grew up out in the Midwest, and, you know, when she was in her 20s, she moved out here to the East Coast and kind of moved around a bit and traveled. And then, so even our hometown, like, we were kind of, there were a lot of families from my hometown that had been there for years and years and years. Mine was fairly new in that, like, we'd only been there for like a couple of years. Even my parents, when they were dating, they lived in a different town in Massachusetts. So it's something that has grown in appeal to me, because the kind of anywhere lifestyle and way of living in the world has always been the way that I've existed. Because, you know, I've my entire adult life, like, I moved around to go to college, then I moved to a different town, then I moved to my hometown for a bit, then I moved to a different town, and now I live in a city that I knew nothing about before I decided to buy a condo here. So it's something that, like, I don't know if it's like a grass is greener thing, or if I'm just, but that's the philosophical concept. And before I go any further with that, I just want to get your thoughts on it, like on the two different examples.
Well, I think there's different kinds of the anywhere. There's the anywhere that you go to a place, no matter where it is, because you want to further yourself and become successful and, you know, make a name for yourself. And then there's a separate, very different anywhere, which is, I want to get out and see the world and experience life and all the different cultures and things. And yeah, I don't know. It's, one is more of a forced anywhere, the other is more of a choosing anywhere.
And that's a good point. And I'm thinking this in both of those, the somewheres and the anywheres, I think that there's a positive and a negative side to both of them. Because, like you said, there's the positive and negative side of the...
Well, I don't think that... I'm not considering them as positive or negative, because, I mean, personally, I'm not the kind of person who this is going to sound bad. I'm not the kind of person who's like, I want to go to this place and this place and this place to see the sights and be a tourist. I fucking hate
doing that.
Being a tourist.
Oh my god, yeah.
I'm far more likely to go to a place for work to progress myself and become better as a person. But I know a lot of people who are completely opposite, so I wouldn't say they're positive or negative.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that, like, because I've traveled to a lot of interesting places for work, and when I'm there, like, I've been with coworkers, like, oh, they want to go and see, like, this monument, or they want to go to see this museum or something like that. And I don't do that. Like, I went to a very...
I want to go see the casino, and I want to see the bar, and then I want to collapse on the couch.
No, but that's what but you're talking about a very particular... I remember that night. But no, there was... I'm talking about...
It wasn't a particular thing I was talking about. That's just how I would do it.
But there's a... well, I've done that exact thing in the UK, actually. Yeah. But I'm actually going to... But that in particular is a good example. What I liked doing, or what I really enjoyed doing when I was traveling a lot, was to find like either like a small local restaurant or like a small bar or something like that, and just chat with the people who are there. Like, you've seen me do this in reality, just strike up a random conversation with people. I loved doing that. But I think that can become a negative. There's a line from... Do you know the TV show Parks and Recreation?
Yeah.
It's, where the infamous Ron Swanson comes from, my spirit animal, the man I think I aspire to be. But he, like, there's a line that he has about this one character who's like an old friend of one of the other main characters, and he's always talking about these adventures he went on and all these interesting people that he knew, and the way he describes that guy is, he's a tourist in other people's lives. Like, and I think that's the negative way, because that guy never has any real connections. He never has any sort of strong bonds with other people that you get when you have, like, the going back to the somewhere type people, the people who have, like, the generational, like, I know this guy, and I knew his father, and my father knew his grandfather, and so on and so on.
Yeah. This guy doesn't have any commitment, which is...
Yeah. He's just traveling around, having his adventures, but it's... all for the purpose of having these sort of social interactions where you can talk to... And I think...
Rushes.
I think when I was saying positive or negative earlier, I think that's what I was trying to get to, is there's a danger in both attitudes.
Yeah.
There's a danger of, in that way, never having a substantial connection, and just going through life as a tourist. And then on the other end of things, there's the chance of being way too rooted in where you're from, and that's when you get into, like, xenophobia and jingoism, where you're just like, it's we're right, we're the right way, it's me and mine, outsiders are weird, and I think there's dangers on both sides where it can become unhealthy, but yeah.
And regarding staying in one place, quite often family is a reason that a lot of people stay in the same place. And
put down roots in the community. Yeah,
like, if you don't have, I don't know, let's say you don't... It's more so if you get, like, married, for example.
Yeah.
It's not just your family which makes you want to stay there, it's also your partner's family for reasons for you to stay there. So I think if you're, like, single, if you're in a shit place, you're a lot more likely to move somewhere else and start afresh.
Yeah. There's something to be said about that being a bit of a negative thing too, because this is where the concept of, like, brain drain comes from. So, like, people in maybe a place that's either suboptimal or shitty, they are like, okay, this is awful. Well, I could stay here and try to build and improve and stuff like that. Or I can move to a place that's better and just go there. That's where you get concepts of brain drain, where you get countries where people... A good example of this is, in India, like, a ton of people who get, like, good educations in technical fields or doctors or things like that, they move either to Europe or to the US because their opportunities in their home country, while it would improve their home country to stay there and try to like build stuff, but it's better for them.
Be the best thing for them.
Exactly. For them and their family, it's better or more expedient to move out and go to these other places. I think that's also kind of the one of the other negative aspects of like kind of the anywhere culture. The other one, and family, you brought up family, and this is one of the other things that I think is a big part of this. I see this a lot, and I know a lot of people, or have worked with people that are like this, where they just like, they seem increasingly eager to like just cut ties with family. And it's maybe it's because I grew up with a fairly close-knit family, at least the family that I have here on the East Coast, and I still am pretty close with the family I have out in the Midwest. I can't imagine, like, there was one person that I know of in my family that like basically everyone cut ties with, and I don't know all the details because it's just something that people don't talk about, but it was a big deal. But now, like, I feel like I see people all the time. It's like, oh, my father said this thing, and I don't agree with that, so I'm just not talking to him anymore, or something like that. And I feel like that's becoming increasingly common. And I said that out loud, and in my head, I'm like, that's the behavior of like a 14-year-old. But no, it's people who are in their mid-20s who are saying shit like that. And it's like, that seems really mentally unhealthy to me. I don't know. Maybe do you have a different perspective on that?
I think everything is any altercation, depending on how close it is to the actual time it happened. Things change over time. I could be really angry at someone 1 minute, and then after a minute, I've just let myself cool off, and I'm like, all right, I'm being stupid. Let's deal with this like gentlemen.
That's generally how I tend to, like, if I get angry, it's very difficult for me to hold a grudge. Like, if I'm angry at someone, I'm typically over it within like 5 minutes. Like, even
not necessarily over it, but like come to a point of understanding where you can see the other person's
exactly, where I'm not being blinded by anger. I'm going like, okay, it's still fucked up what happened, but let's hash this out like adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very rare for me to stay like very, very angry. And I think that's kind of the default healthy attitude. And we've kind of moved on now into to the plagues of modern culture.
Yep.
Oh God. So this is relevant to what we were just talking about. So recently I recorded a video that at some point is going to go up on the YouTube channel. That game, The Suicide of Rachel Foster.
Yep.
And the main character for the first like 20 minutes of the game was so insufferable, I almost just stopped playing the game, because they epitomized the exact fucking attitude that we're talking about. Like, their father did something messed up, and so the mother took the daughter and left, and they just cut all ties, and as a result, the daughter grew up bitter and vindictive and sarcastic and angry, and to the point where when she's having a normal interaction with somebody who's just trying to help her and save her life, honestly, she's being just a complete bitch. Like, just every single thing he says, she responds with sarcasm. Any sign of help, she ignores and flies in the face of. He's like, if you go out in the snow, we can't save you, and you're going to die. And she's
Is
like...
she British by any chance?
No, she was from Montana. So, pretty far from British.
I just heard always sarcastic, and I was like, I know my people.
Yeah, so it just... And I think that was... But I should say that in that game, she becomes a bit more self-aware, begins to understand, like, her situation, and realizes that this person is just trying to help her, and she kind of...
Character evolution.
Yeah, she has a moment of self-reflection, and that's why I kept playing the game, and I intend to keep playing the game, because it opens up by making the character very much an insufferable asshole, and then giving that character depth by having them notice that they've been a dick. But yeah, it's just we've kind of gone into a bit more of a philosophical bent than I was expecting with this, but
yeah.
And
would you like me to switch the topic? What are you gonna say?
No. I was just gonna ask if you had anything else, or if you wanted to switch the topic. So exactly what you were saying.
Well, what I was gonna say, the reason I was smiling just then, which you probably caught, you're like, oh, but then she became not an asshole. And I was like, we're playing Call of Cthulhu right now, and our character's an absolute asshole.
Oh god, he's such a
and I hope he never changes.
He's such a dick. There's a difference between a character you have no control over being a dick when you don't want them to be, or when you're playing a game and you have the option not to be an asshole and do it anyway. That's sometimes cathartic in a video game. It's the reason in Mass Effect why there are so many memes and jokes around you punching out the reporter. Because the reporter's being a dick, and it's very cathartic. It's not a good idea, and there are repercussions in the game, like it's bad PR. And
also, our guy in that isn't being an asshole to people who've helped him.
No, he's being an asshole to people who are being an asshole to him.
Yeah.
Asshole counterattack. Anyway, all right, yeah, let's move on. I bet this is just a concept that's kind of been on my mind, for the past few months, and now that I'm settling back into my old work routine, it's kind of come back to the forefront again. So I thought it would be something interesting to talk about. But your topic.
Well, transitioning from Call of Cthulhu to another Cthulhu-esque game, which so this is a game I've been playing all through this week, and I got super hooked on and fucking loved it. It's called Stirring Abyss. And the reason we're not playing it on the channel is because I keep getting us to play Cthulhu-esque cult horror games, and I have to stop because I've got a problem.
Well, and I don't like playing horror games, which is it's like, oh, what are we playing next?
Scary.
We're playing Call of Cthulhu.
Ironically, this is the least scary of them. It's not a scary game. It's just got intense. I don't know. It's pixel graphics, so it's not scary.
Yeah, quite
but
difficult.
The idea of it, if you were to have like a real camera footage of the things going on, it would be quite horrific.
Yeah.
So any super old people out there will possibly remember a game called XCOM Terror from the Deep, which was one of the original XCOM games, and it was all about you dive under the water on the earth, and basically aliens had landed in the water, and you'd fight them underwater. Yeah. And there were heavy themes coming from that, and then you mix that in with Lovecraftian Cthulhu-esque lore. You start out with like a chief of a submarine who wakes up in a diving suit underwater, and you eventually find your a crew member, and you find the submarine that you arrived here on, and the submarine's absolutely fucking flooded, and the submarine's like your hub, which you come back to after each mission. And much like in the new XCOM, the first of the new XCOMs, you kind of slowly excavate each of the rooms, and you get more upgrades and things to equip your people with as you keep exploring the
base
deep.
Development and stuff like that goes along the moment-to-moment gameplay.
Yeah, and so as you're going along, you're balancing a whole bunch of things. You're balancing keeping your limited crew alive. You're also looking for scrap metal to repair the ship, and you can also there are voices coming from the. So there's essentially monsters under the water, and they are tentacly, and they all want to kill you or send you insane. But there are some shrines where it's like an elder god speaks to you through the shrine, and he gives you the ability to mutate your crew members to give them special...
Abathur!
Yes, literally. So you can mutate your crew members to have like a tentacle arm or 2 hearts or literally like a swarm of bees surround your character.
Ah! Give him the full Nicolas Cage.
Exactly, which honestly... So I kind of... I don't like to meta game these games too hard. So I basically put all of my mutations onto one guy. And so it's definitely not the most efficient way of doing it. But basically I had this crew of humans and this one guy who was like a crazy cultist dude who's, like I said, got tentacle arms and all these kinds of things. And he's just like insane compared to everyone else. Yeah, and as you go along, every mission you have to keep an eye on your air supply and your sanity and your health all at the same time. And there's like a story about like the captain of your ship. I don't know if he was in on it to begin with, or if he just was targeted by mind control and led your people to doom. And then there's also a Russian vessel, you find out, which you kind of find recordings from Russians, and they're like, it's essentially the people that came before you, and the same thing has happened to them.
Comrade, send more vodka.
Yeah, but and one of the messages you come across, which is a bit of a turning point in the game, it's like, and they took the warhead. So now the underwater alien Cthulhu monsters have a nuke. And yeah, you progress through the game.
What?
Go on.
Why do the Cthulhu monsters need a nuke?
Well, you don't know. But
by the way, interesting. Like, so we're both pronouncing it Cthulhu, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, the way Lovecraft originally pronounced it was, Cthulhu.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was very different from how most people pronounce it today. Fun little factoid. Continue on.
Anyway, yeah. So this is going to be major spoilers, by the way. I mean, I've already spoiled parts of it.
The Lovecraftian lore stuff. I mean, if you know anything about like the lore of his universe, it's spoiled already.
Yeah. So, as you're going on, there's like a general sanity meter for the entire ocean.
Yeah.
And you can reduce that by doing certain
the ocean
quests.
Is.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like
those waves look a little crazy.
The more insane, like the stronger and more mutated the enemies are.
Yeah, it's like the you played the Mechanicum game. It's like the awareness of the Necron tier. Like,
yes.
They're
how close they are to waking up
exactly.
Fully.
Yeah. So it's a similar thing for other strategy like games like that.
So that's another thing you have to keep an eye on as you're going along. And oh fuck. Anyway, you get some weird fucking creatures, and as you go along, the creatures get more varied and more deadly. And there's an upgrade for the submarine I got right at the end, where you can literally just pinpoint a target, and the submarine fires a torpedo at it on the map. It's really fucking cool, even though it's absolute trash damage-wise.
I just thought of another topic once we're through with this. It has nothing to do with this, and the reason I thought of it is fucking idiotic, but let's just keep going. But I do want to jump in here. Like, I like the description of the game. I like the XCOM style games. The new XCOM, when I'm saying XCOM, I mean like the new XCOM style games. The sort of grid-based, tactical...
It does play like that. It just looks like the old ones.
There's, so I have only played the first new XCOM, and I had it because I had it for the Xbox. It was one of those, free games. If you have Xbox Live, they give you 2 free games every month. And so that was one of the free games. And I played through it, and I haven't beat the game, but it's a fun thing to just...
The new XCOM, did you say?
The new XCOM in relation to the XCOMs that came out in the 90s for the PC.
Oh, okay.
So this is the one that came out in, like, the mid... What was it? 2012? 2000... I don't know when it came out.
Right.
But in the modern XCOM franchise, XCOM 1. XCOM Enemy Unknown, that's what it was called.
Yeah, that was it.
And I enjoy that kind of game. There's actually a really good... so I enjoy visual novels as a storytelling medium. There's a good one that I played called Utawaru no Mono. Yeah, a little bit of Japanese there. I have no idea what the fuck it means in English. I know no means it's like a possessive, and mono, I think, means monkey? I might be wrong about that. Doesn't matter. But it's got the same sort of grid-based, like, SRPG kind of style to it. And I do enjoy that gameplay format. Like, when I need a break from the sort of rigors of kind of the fast-paced, like, FPS or, like, RTS style thing, it's nice to just... It's why last night when we were playing Polytopia again, it was nice to just chill out and do a little turn-based approach as you fucking slaughter my people.
I'm quite good at that game.
Yeah, I'm not. I had to remember how to fucking move the units.
But you enjoy it, and that's what's important.
But no, it sounds interesting. I kind of popped in a couple times when you were playing it this week and, you know, watched a little bit of the gameplay, so...
There were some quite funny moments. Like, so you know how I said the submarine could fire these massive fucking torpedoes?
Yeah.
I was doing that. I fired it at a boss. And then the boss mind-controlled me and made me walk over to the boss. And the torpedo was still coming, and I was like... And I don't know if you... how you play XCOM.
This will be a bonding experience.
I don't know how you play XCOM, but I tend to have, like, one single group that's really powerful, and if any of them die, it's fucking terrible.
So that is the second time this week that I've used that fucking reference from Lord of War.
Yeah.
But, no, I like that. I like games that have enough flexibility that unexpected shit can happen like that. It's one of the things that I really try to incorporate, like in D&D, when I'm hosting those games. One of the rules that I always have, and you've played in one of my games, the rule that I always go with when I'm DMing a game is that I will allow my players to do anything, but that comes with the like that's the little caveat that there will be consequences to if you do something really fucking stupid.
Yeah. And I was in a really fucking stupid team when I was playing.
Yeah, I'm surprised you guys didn't die. Oh, by the way, you know that wand that Kevin had? That
Kevin.
Yeah. It blew up in his face and caused a riot.
Again.
Yeah. That was... the game hasn't continued since then. We actually put that one on pause and moved on to another one. But,
right.
Yeah, just fun little side story there. Anything else you want to say about the game, or shall we move on? Because I had, I think, one last thing to kind of end it off.
Go for it.
All right. It has nothing to do with what we were talking about, but when I made the joke in the middle of your description of finding the Russians, of the comrade, we need more vodka, it reminded me of a conversation. So I saw a bunch of college friends a few weeks back. Actually, I think it was last weekend. We went up, to one of through a Halloween party, and Halloween party, in the 30 and over crowd means kids running around with a dog and us playing board
cheese
games.
Board.
Yeah,
that's when you know you've fucking gone past the mark.
The funny thing is, my friend's wife at the party, she was pissed because the cheese board wasn't like ready. They ordered it and it didn't get delivered, and she
Okay, call their manager.
Oh my god, no! So it wasn't that bad, but it's much more chill. Like it's it's not like the college party day, not like the clubbing,
Yeah.
party that you had, going out. But
Yeah, no one's putting on loud rock music. No one's looking to get banged.
yeah,
Like,
it was music and board games
Classical.
and just like a few drinks and some good food. Like a very
maybe some Cards Against Humanity. Oh, so
God.
risque.
we were playing we did play a lot of board. It was actually a really good board game that we played there, but that's not the point. Like my friend that was hosting it, his wife basically doesn't drink anymore, but she still likes to have like a cocktail. So apparently they make non-alcoholic liquor, which
Right.
is such a
Is that
weird
like vegan burgers?
I'm sorry, what's that bottle that you're holding there? Sorry, for those that can't see, Blue has just uncapped.
Don't you shame me! Don't shame me!
Well, I'm sitting here drinking a glass of wine, but still. Apparently, they do make these things. Like I knew they had there's a wide variety of craft non-alcoholic beer now. Last year in 2020, with me and a friend did the whole sober October thing, where you
you said yourself you had those. Yeah, you love those alcohol-free beers.
Yeah. It was the Heineken Zero, and I was like, that was actually. It had a weird metallic taste to it, but it still tasted basically like Heineken, and it was good.
Yeah.
It was great because I could, in the middle of a workday, I could have a beer with a sandwich, and it was fine.
Yeah, and you acted less like a prick than when you drink alcohol. Sorry, pardon my language. To those out there.
But no, so they apparently they make non-alcoholic liquor, and it sparked a conversation because there's different varieties. She had a couple bottles of non-alcoholic rum and tequila, which I don't know. Basically, apparently taste basically the same. But they were trying out a few different ones, and they got a non-alcoholic whiskey, which apparently just tastes like wood and cinnamon. It didn't sound
According
too
to
appetizing. I wanted to try it. I never tried it.
Oh no, you didn't try it.
No,
Okay,
they bought it, and it was so horrible they dumped it out and didn't get it again. And I was disappointed because I wanted to try it because I like whiskey.
I was about to say that's a sin to dump alcohol, but I realized
But it's not.
it isn't alcohol.
But it's not. It was apparently what they did to kind of simulate the burn you get when you have a whiskey. Was they added in some sort of a spice or a chemical
Chili
to
powder,
simulate
yeah.
it, and it was apparently it just tasted bad. It was like wood tea with a weird burn. That was how he described it. But
I told you before I had spicy tequila shots. And it really fucking burnt. That was spicy as fuck.
yeah, I've never
not
been a fan
enjoyable.
of shots. I don't like shots.
No, I don't like shots.
The one kind of
cheap day out.
the one kind of shot I've ever done is tequila shots, and that's mostly because I love the whole routine of it, the salt, the lime, the whatever. But I know I've told this story before, but the first time I did it, I completely I didn't understand what I was doing. So I ate the salt, I took the shot, and then I threw the whole lime slice in my mouth and just ate the whole thing.
Fucking weirdo. No,
And
the best.
The funny the thing was I was at a party, and the girl who was getting us all to do the shot, she was like, "Okay, yeah, we're gonna do another one." It's like, "Matt, where's your lime?" I was like, "I ate it." She's like, "What?" Anyway,
The best chaser I've ever had.
But before you tell the story, the one thing, and we're trying to think of okay, so there's non-alcoholic rum, there's a non-alcoholic tequila, there's a non-alcoholic whiskey. What? And then one of the girls was like, okay, there's we're like, what's one that they wouldn't have made? And they were like, oh, a non-alcoholic vodka. And she was like, yeah, because it's completely pointless. A good vodka doesn't taste like anything anyway. A non-alcoholic vodka is water.
Yeah.
But go on. What were you saying?
Yeah. No, the one chase that I've ever had that has actually been brilliant was it was at the rum bar that you've been to it.
Yeah.
And it was back when a certain person was working there who was very generous. And so they were like, we've got this new thing in, you've got to try it, because I was a bit of a regular And so he queued them up for both of us. And it was like a normal shot. And then there was this like murky green, disgusting looking thing that was apparently like had some kind of vegetables in it, right?
Okay, yeah.
Or maybe it was kiwi. I don't know.
Doesn't matter. But go on.
Anyway, had the shot. Tasted fucking disgusting. And I was like, I really don't want to drink this green shit. Oh, they make me do it. Alright, fine, I'll do it. Ugh. Straight back. Fucking delicious. The chaser was so nice.
It just goes to show, like, there's some drinks and food out there that look...
Surprise you.
Yeah, look disgusting. Then you taste them. It's like, oh, that's actually pretty good.
Damn. Yeah, no, really nice.
Yeah,
but I'm not a shots person.
Yeah, I've never... No. I'm much more, like... My preferred method of consuming alcohol is, like, a tumbler with some ice and, like, a good whiskey.
Yeah.
That's
slow sipper.
Yeah, that's my preferred method of consuming alcohol. But yeah, no, it was a weird thing to me, like the fact that the whole like non-alcoholic alcohol industry has grown significantly in recent years, because it used to be that there was only a few like non-alcoholic beers in the U.S. There was like O'Doul's and like a couple other random things. No, sorry. But now it's grown. There's a ton of there's a bunch of non-alcoholic craft beers. There's non-alcoholic wine and champagne.
Yeah.
There's like people and now apparently there's non-alcoholic liquor.
Well, if there's non-alcoholic Baileys, I'll certainly be fucking drinking that.
That's just fucking heavy cream.
That's just Baileys actually, pretty much, because it's not alcoholic. But
yeah, Baileys is pretty good. I like
delicious.
Baileys. I haven't had that in a long time.
I can't remember what I was gonna say. Fuck, I hate it when this happens.
Oh yeah, you get the thought, and
God.
it's like, oh, it's right there, like, and you're about to say it, and it's
shit.
Oh man. Well, I mean, yeah, that's just a fun little topic, I think, to end us off. You've got a few seconds. Can you think of it? Nope. Okay.
Oh, I didn't realize what you took.
No, I was fucking with you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any final thoughts before we end the podcast?
I'm hungry.
I'm actually kind of hungry too. All I had for breakfast was a protein bar. Well, this is going to be the end of episode 67 of the TMCJ podcast. Thank you all for listening, and hopefully you will tune in again next week.
Eric!